Okay, Masechet Eruvin, Daf Mem Bet. Just to review the Mishnah, because it's going to be quoted once again, if someone gets kidnapped and taken outside of his techum, so then he can't move, only 4 amot. But if they are nice enough, his kidnappers are nice enough to bring him back into his techum, then that's fine. It's as if he never left. We're going to be talking about the similar law regarding fruit, which I'll introduce in a second. But here, this is going to be important. If they took him to a different city and they put him into a pen or a stable, a prison, so the Ban Gamliel and Rabbi Elazar say he can walk around that entire, it's an enclosed area. So even though that was not his original Techum on Shabbat, because he was forcibly taken somewhere else, if he's out in the open, then only 4 amot around. But if he's in an enclosed area, so then that's his new place. He can walk around the entire enclosed area. That's the first two opinions. Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Akiva say, no, nevertheless, only 4 amot. Even though it's an enclosed area, that doesn't change anything. And there's an actual story where that happened to them. Okay, so that's going to be important in a second. But now we get to Rav Papa. So here's introducing a new concept. Not only does a person set a place when Shabbat starts, and he can only walk 2,000 mot around, also items, all things have a place as well. And so it gets complicated because it depends on who owns it. But now let's talk about just ownerless. Let's say there's fruit somewhere, and now the fruit is taken out of the tchum. Well, now that fruit, the fruit doesn't violate anything because, fruits don't have free will, right? But the question is, now that it was taken out, can someone eat it, right? Because it's not allowed to be in the new place. Or if someone takes it out and brings it back. So it's a parallel law to the one we just said regarding humans, but now regarding fruit. So here's Rav Papa. He is Mekel. Amar Rav Papa, pedot sheyatzu chutz latechum vehazru. Someone kidnapped fruit, took it out. I'm kidding, not really. He just took some fruit outside the techum, which is not allowed. Whatever reason, they did it, and then they brought it back. Afilu b'mezid lo hifsidu et mekoman. Even if he did it on purpose, it doesn't lose its place. So because it's now came back to its original spot, so anyone there is allowed to eat it, even the person that took it out. My ta'ama anusin ninhu. Why? Because it's beyond their control, right? The fruit had no say in it. So fruit is always like someone who's kidnapped. It'll be the same law. And so therefore, you can eat the fruit. Okay, that is Rav Papa, and he's lenient. However, we're going to see there is another opinion that's more stringent. Itebe Rav Yosef bar Shemaya Rav Papa. So now he's quoting a baraita, and then this Rav Papa is a 5th generation Amora. You can't argue with a Tanaitic baraita. And yet we have this baraita where these two rabbis, say, Le'olam asurin ad she'achzru lemkoman shogegin. B'shogegin b'mezid la. They say the only time you will be allowed to eat fruit that was taken out of its place and brought back is if it was done by mistake, right? I didn't realize that the fruit was in my bag, and I went and I came, and so then it's okay. But if someone on purpose did it, violated Yom Tov, then brought it back, then it would not be allowed to eat it. Okay, so they agree on shogeg, but they disagree on the mezid case. So this is a question on Papa. How can he disagree with the baraita? Answer is, actually, it's a machloket tanaim, and we learn this from the second baraita. Tana'ehi detanya perot sheyasu tchus latechum beshogeg ye'achilu b'mezid lo ye'achilu. All right, this statement so far sounds like on purpose you're not allowed, but this is a case where they just left the techum, not that they came back yet. So we're going to try to infer from this. Oh, that's only because they went out. But if when they went out and came back, actually, it's not really so clear, so we're going to have to do some work. But there's two opinions here. Rabbi Nechemia omed, bimkoman ya'achilu, shelo bimkoman lo ya'achilu. He doesn't seem to distinguish between purposeful or not on purpose, but rather, if they're back in their place, however they left and came, then it's okay, you can eat it. If they're not in their place, you cannot eat it. So there's a lot of things that aren't clear here. Which cases have been Rabbi Nechemia talking about? When it was shogeg, when it was mezid, does it matter? So that's what we're going to try to figure out. Bimkoman, my bimkoman, when the Ibn Nechemia says, in its place, you can eat it. Well, ilema bimkoman b'mezid, if you say that it was taken away and put back on purpose, and someone violated Yom Tov, v'hakatani behedya, Rabbi Nechemia, v'Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov omerim, le'olam asurin, ad she'achzeru limkoman shogigin. The first baraita, the one that we originally quoted in questioning Rav Papa, already said that both of these sages say it's not okay unless it's shogeg. Shogeg, b'shogegin, b'mezid la. So it can't be a case where it was taken and put back on purpose, because they said that's no good. Rather, in the second baraita, when they say bimkoman yachelu, ela la bimkoman b'shogeg, it must be talking about a case where it was done by inadvertently. And so we have to fill in the gap of this baraita as follows. The first Tanakama says, Perot sheyasu chutz latechum b'shogeg yachelu b'mezid lo yachelu. That's exactly the same words that are there. But now we add, B'amed devarim amurim shelo bimkoman. That's only if they're taken out and stay out. Then, on purpose, they cannot be eaten. Aval bimkoman, but if they return back to their place, afilu b'mezid ya'achilu. Then, even if they were taken away and brought back on purpose, you can still eat them. So you see, that's Rav Papa's opinion. He's the one that's lenient, that says they go out and come back even on purpose, you can eat them. And upon that, Rabbi Nechemia comes and disagrees and says, afilu bimkoman nameh b'shogegin b'mezid la. Even if they come back to their original spot, if you did it on purpose, you cannot eat it. Okay, so now we saved Rav Papa because we showed that he can follow the Tanakama in that baraita. We're going to do one more back and forth regarding the reading of this baraita. We're going to try to reject that reading, but then we're going to save it in the end. And so the Papa will have a support. So here's the rejection. La b'mezid bimkoman dekula amala plige de asur. No. Maybe you could read it as follows: that when you did it on purpose and you brought it back and it's still in the place, maybe everyone agrees that you're not allowed to eat it if it's done on purpose. Maybe the machloket is when it was taken out and it's not in its place, bishogeg, right? So you have, on the one hand, it's good because it's shogeg. On the other hand, it's bad because it's outside the techum. And in that case, maybe Tanakama sabar bishogeg shareh shelo bimkoman. And so Tanakama would say it's okay because it was done by mistake, even though it's outside its place. And that's where Nechemia is more machmir and says, if it's outside its place, no matter what, even b'shogeg, it's not good. No, we say this is not a possible reading. Remember that first baraita? So there it says, Le'olam asurin ad she'achazru limkoman shogegin b'mezid la. Meklal Tanakama samad, the Tanakama sabad mezid nameshare shema'mina. So since in that statement, in that baraita, they say that it's prohibited until it comes back by inadvertently, so only inadvertently, but on purpose, it would not be good. So therefore, since they say it's not good, must be the Tanakama disagrees with that. There has to be a contrast between them. So Tanakama, in fact, thinks that even if it's done on purpose, once it's back in its place, it's okay. That is Rav Papa's opinion. Shema mina. Okay, good. So we were able to save him, and that concludes the case of fruits that were taken out of their spot. Okay, now we're going to go to a new topic. Now this is just a short halacha. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Shemuel. Hayam melech ve'eno yodea techum Shabbat. Often in cities, they would put markers from before Shabbat. Someone would go with measuring tape and measure it and put a sign. Here's Techum Shabbat. That's it. You can't walk anymore. But let's say you're someplace and there's no marker. You don't know how far it is. So can you measure? And so the answer is yes. You take 2,000 medium steps, and that will be the same as 2,000 amot. And then, I can walk that far and no further. And so, therefore, even though generally you can't measure things, but if you have to go there for mitzvah, so then you measure with your feet, even on Shabbat, and then you know where the techum is. Okay, that's a nice halacha. And that was said by Rav Nachman in the name of Shemuel. And so now while we're talking about that sage, we quote another halacha, Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Shemuel. Shavat bebik'ah, vekifu hanochrim mechisa b'shabat, mehalech alpaim ama umtaltel bekula al yedeh zerika. This is a fascinating case. It reminds me of one time I parked my car on Avenue J and there was no meters. And then while I was in school, all of a sudden the city came and installed meters and gave me a ticket, right? So when you have something that comes after the fact that changes the original, right? So what happens? That's a very strange case. So here's something similar. A person was in the middle of a valley. In other words, open, there's no walls, there's no nothing. So he's there in the middle. He has 2,000 amot. Let's say, right, this lighter green area, that's his 2,000 amot. Okay, that's a simple case. If maybe there's a sign, maybe he'll walk to figure out where it is. But then on Shabbat, some non-Jews came, then, the city planning, and they happened to build a wall further out than 2,000 amot. They built it on Shabbat, and now all of a sudden I find that I am within walls. Oh, this seems to be very good. So can I use the walls? Is this helpful? Well, here's a problem. I still can't walk outside my techum Shabbat, right? My techum is only until the end of the light green. But in terms of carrying, I'm allowed to carry until the wall because now it's all enclosed. But I can't walk there. So, theoretically, if I could walk there, I could carry. So usually we have the opposite case. Usually, I'm talking of there's the whole city and beyond is Techum Shabbat, and there's certain areas that are courtyards and I can't carry there, or streets, can't carry in the street. So this is reversed. I can walk in this area, but I can carry in a bigger area. So what does that mean if I can carry but I can't walk there? Al yedeh zerika, by throwing. So I'm allowed to walk and carry anywhere in the light green, and I can go to the edge and I can throw something all the way up until the wall, and that will be permitted. When I can't walk there, I can carry there, so therefore I can throw there. That is the opinion of Rav Nachman in the name of Shemuel, and he's the lenient opinion. However, his colleague, Rav Huna, disagrees. Rav Huna amar, me'alech apayim amma. He says, yes, you're allowed to walk 2,000 amot. That doesn't change. Umeteltel arba amot. But in terms of carrying, no. Carrying is only 4 amot from the center. In other words, just as before, when there was no walls, and if there's no walls, you can't carry at all, the new wall that appeared on Shabbat doesn't change anything. Right? V'niteltel bechula. Okay, that's Rav Huna. Okay, so Rav Nachman says the new wall is helpful. Rav Nachman says it is helpful. Rav Huna says no, it's not helpful. Now the Gemara asks, okay, wait, hold on. Why don't you allow him to throw things, right? I understand that you don't want to let him carry in this whole area because he wasn't allowed to before, but how about just throw things? He says no. We are afraid that if we allow him to throw, then he will say, oh, wait, I need that thing. He just, threw a ball out there, and then now he wants it back. Now he's going to walk over there, and he's going to carry it. So therefore, it's more of a gezerah not to allow that. All right. Now, wait, hold on. Why not let him carry at least in the 2,000 amot, where he's allowed to walk, and now it's enclosed, so why not allow that? He says, no, that also no good. We had this in a number of cases before, where if I have a courtyard that's mostly enclosed, but it's open to an area where I can't carry, if that wall is totally open, then that prohibited area prohibits me from the area that I'm in. And so because this area, although technically I'm allowed to walk in this whole area, and I should be allowed to even carry in the 2,000 amot, since it's adjacent to an area where I am not allowed to walk, therefore it prohibits even where I'm not allowed to walk and carry, therefore prohibits even the space that's inside, and so therefore I'm limited to my original 4 amot. Okay, so that is Rav Huna. Now we're going to see possibly a third opinion. We're going to end up projecting and saying, no, he's the same. Chiya bar Rav amar, melech alpaim amma, umetaltel ba'alpayim amah. He seems to be a middle opinion that you can walk 2,000 amot and you can carry 2,000 amot. He just doesn't allow you to stand inside the 2,000 amot and throw outside. In the Talmud Yerushalmi, he's understood as a third separate opinion. But in the Bavli, there's wondering like, wait, you're not here, you're not there. Like, what's the point? The Lord Kerab Nachman or the Lord Kerab Huna, right? I mean, if you were going to accept the logic of one, then follow each one totally. So instead, the Bavli reinterprets his words. It says, Ema metaltel ba'arba. When he says that you can carry, he didn't mean 2,000. He meant only 4 amot, little area. Which is the same as Rav Huna. Yes, Ema v'chen amar Rabbi Chia bar Rav. He wasn't arguing. He wasn't saying anything different. He was just adding that he agrees with that opinion. Okay, so in the end, we only have to deal with 2 opinions here. All right. Now, within these 2 opinions, we have one area of agreement. Amar le Rav Nachman le Rav Huna. La tiflog, first a disagreement. La tiflog ale de Shmuel. Rav Nachman, who was lenient and said you can walk all 2,000 amot and even throw outside, he said that in the name of Shmuel, he tells Rav Huna, you should not argue with me who said it in the name of Shmuel, because the Tanya Kivate, we have a braita. Shmuel has a braita that proves him, that you're allowed to throw outside the area that you can walk. How do we see that? The Tanya. היה מודד ובא, והחלטה מידתו בחצי העיר, מותר לטלטל בכל העיר כולה, ובלבד שלא יעבור את התחום ברגליו. So we have a case where a person, this is why it was good we had that previous case where I don't know where the 2,000 amot ends, I'm measuring with my feet. So a person was outside the city, he's measuring the 2,000 amot with his feet, and he ends up in the middle of a city. So he can walk throughout that city, right? It says you can walk throughout the city as long as it doesn't pass the tchum with his feet. So what does that mean? How can he carry the whole city if he can't even walk in the whole city? He can only walk to the middle of the city. So my mitaltel lav aydezrika. So when you say he can carry in the whole city, it must mean he can do it by throwing. He can't go there, but he can throw anywhere in the city, right? So wouldn't you agree with me? See, I have a braita that says I'm allowed to carry beyond the place where I can walk. So that means I can throw. This is brilliant. He says, no, not by throwing, but rather by pulling. Well, what's the difference? Because if I allowed someone to throw, maybe remember that was a whole gezerah. If I allow someone to throw, then they're going to want to go and bring it back. But if I just have something outside and I have a rope and I can pull it in, so then I'm not going to violate, I'm not going to come to go out and get it because I already have it. And so even Rav Huna would agree that I am allowed to carry outside the area I can walk, but only if I'm bringing it towards me, not throwing it out away from me where I'm going to go and get it. Okay, good. So that's a good clarification. Amar Rav Huna, haya moded uba vechalta midato bechasi chaser. En lo ela chasi chaser. Rav Huna said a statement that needs clarification. He says, if you were somewhere and you're counting your steps and you get to 2,000 amot and it ended in the middle of a courtyard. So he says you only have half the courtyard. In other words, you can walk in that half of the courtyard that's within, but not without. Now we ask about that. Rav Huna, why do you need to say that? Pishita. Of course you can walk that far, and you can't walk beyond. Ema yesh lo chasi chaser. Well, he says no. He can walk within that half. That's also obvious. Of course he can. That's within his techum. Why would you think not? Well, he has to teach us that because one might have thought that you'd add a gezerah that, see, since you're allowed to or walk in half of it, then you might think that I can carry in the whole thing. And I may even throw something beyond it. And so therefore he has to teach, he says, no, you don't make such a gezerah. You can walk within that area. And you don't have to worry that by letting someone walk within the area, then he's going to throw something out. We don't make that gezerah. And that's why he wanted to tell you that that is permitted. Okay, now a point of agreement. Amar Rav Nachman, modeli huna, haya modedu ba, vechalta midato al sefat tikra, mutar letaltel bechol habayit. You should agree that if someone is counting his steps and it turns out that the 2,000 amot is right at the threshold of a house, right? He's standing right in the doorway of the house, that in that case, you should allow the person to carry anywhere within the house. Not that he can walk into the house because that's beyond 2,000 amot, but rather carry by throwing. Why? Because the edge of the roof of the house is coming down, and it's a sign that he knows that he's not going to pass beyond it. The problem when there's no house there and it's just an imaginary line, then if you allow him to walk up to that and throw something, you're not going to see the line. He's going to see his item there. He's going to want to go and get it. But if there's some kind of marker, like a door threshold, then he can walk up to it and even throw it in. Okay, so we don't have Rav Huna's a response to that, but I suppose he agrees. Okay, good. Now, Amar Rav Huna bered Rav Natan kitanaeh. He wants to propose that this machloket between Rav Nachman and Rav Huna matches up with the machloket Tanaim that we started with in our Mishnah. This is going to end up rejecting this. It's not going to work, but it's an attempt to see if the same principle is behind both of them. So now going back and quoting our Mishnah, if some kidnappers came and took a person outside of his city and put him into a pen or a stable, now he's within that enclosed area, he can walk throughout it. Even though he's in a new place. That's his new place. He went beyond it, out of his control. And so he can walk throughout that enclosed area. He's outside his techum, and therefore he can only walk 4 amot. That's the usual halacha. My love, Rabban Gamliel v'Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah amru mehalechet kula tela gazre hiluch dir v'sahar atu hiluch babik'ah. So perhaps Rabban Gamliel and Rabbi Elazar, that they who say you can walk around the entire pen, they say that because they are not making a gezerah regard from the pen to an open place. Right? So the assumption is that if you would prohibit it, why would you prohibit it? You're in an enclosed area, right? It shouldn't be a problem. That the one who prohibits would say, well, you should be prohibited even in an enclosed area, because lest you come to another case, you might be in an open area, and then you're gonna walk too far. So you see, they don't make a gezerah from this enclosed area to an open area. And here's the next step: and since they don't even make a gezerah in a case of walking to walking in an enclosed area, walking in an open area, then certainly they would not make a gezerah from walking to carrying. And so therefore they would allow someone to throw, right? That would be the opinion of Rav Nachman. Okay, so that's the idea. See, Rav Huna only prohibited it because he made a gezerah. If I allow you to throw, then you're going to go out and get something. But you see that they don't make gezerot. Rabban Gamliel and Rabbi Elazar don't even make a gezerah from walking to walking. So certainly they won't make a gezerah from walking to throwing, which is a bigger step. And so therefore they agree with Rav Nachman. Rabbi Yoshua, Rabbi Akiva, they're the ones that said if kidnappers take you to a new place and you're in an enclosed area, still you can't walk at all. Why do they say that? Well, maybe because they make a gezerah, you can't walk in this enclosed area lest you come to walk in an open area. And if they're going to make a gezerah from a case of walking to a case of walking, then they would certainly make a gezerah of something that is much worse. They would also make a gezerah from walking to throwing. Okay, and so therefore that would be the opinion of Rav Huna. That's the proposal. Really, the cases are pretty different, and that's going to be the next final statement. Mimai dilma ki lo gazer Rabban Gamliel Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah hiluch sahar v'dir atu hiluch ba'bik'ah hanemi lihatam tishne mekomoten אבל טלטול to הילוך במקום אחד הוא הכי נמי דגזרה. Wait, how do you know? They're really two different cases. Perhaps Rabban Gamliel Bielazad, who said that you can walk throughout the enclosed area, that is talking about two different areas. We're not going to make a gezerah on an enclosed area to an open area. They're two different circumstances altogether. And so in that case, they don't make a gezerah. But perhaps they would make a gezerah if it's the very same area, and by throwing outside of it, then right, you're going to come to walk outside. So that they very well may say make a gezerah. And the other way around also could make sense. They're the ones that said you have only, if the kidnappers take you to a new place, even if it's enclosed, you have only 4 amot. Maybe the reason that they said you have to stay in 4 amot is not because of the gezerah, because you might one day be in an open space, but rather they think that the general principle that if you're in an enclosed area, you can walk throughout it, that the whole thing is your techum, that's only if you were there at the beginning of Shabbat. But in this case, you were not there at the beginning of Shabbat, right? These kidnappers took you there during the day. If you weren't there, then you wouldn't. So really their reasoning in the Garden of Mishnah is completely different from the reasoning of Rav Huna and Rav Nachman in this case. And so there's not actually a machloket tanaim. All right, now we'll just end with the halacha l'maaseh. Amar Rav hilchata k'Rabban Gamliel bedir v'sahar usfina. It says we are going to follow Rabban Gamliel in the Mishnah that you can walk throughout a pen, the kidnappers take you there, or a boat, if you find yourself on a boat, and on Shabbat, even though the boat's moving, you can walk throughout the boat. The boat becomes your place in the whole area. So in other words, any enclosed area can be your place. Shmuel says, I do agree that halacha is like him, is like Rabban Gamliel regarding a boat, but not in the other case where you're kidnapped and taken to a pen. In that case, we do not follow halacha like him. And tomorrow this goes into a much longer surah that goes well into the next page, and we'll see the different arguments back and forth. What's the difference between the case of the boat and the case of the pen? But that's all for today. Baruch Adonai Olam. Amen. Amen.